All right, it's time to start generating our printed document. Let's say we're creating a manual based on our online help system. And in this case, we're going to use our How to Use LDC Print project, which you'll find in the Chapter 14 folder of your exercise files. And you can see we have a table of contents here that, when expanded, contains several topics. And maybe we want to use this table of contents. There's an index as well that we probably want to use. We have a See Also and a glossary here that we might want to use. So in those cases, these are all options or properties that we can choose to use or not as we generate our printed documentation. And to do that, we go down to the single source layouts and just double click Printed Documentation. This gets things started. Now from the Printed Documentation Properties window, we can make a few selections like, what are we going to generate, an Adobe PDF or a Word document? Let's say we want this to be a Word document. We can select Generate Word Document and choose the format, maybe the newer format, the XML-based DOC format. And now we can generate both at the same time, or we can choose to deselect Adobe PDF and just stick with the Word document. Notice the name that appears here, which is Printed Documentation. We'll definitely want to change that. Let's call it the How to Use lynda.com manual. There we go. And the location is based on your current location of your exercise file. So it's just going to create a subfolder for the printed documentation. Notice it's the SSL folder where this goes. Now if you want to change the location, you could do that by clicking the folder button, but let's just leave it as is and go down a little bit further to the content area here. Now, the table of contents, the index, the glossary, etc., you can see all of the defaults are selected here, but if you've created different table of contents, index, etc., you want to click these drop downs and choose your own, like the How to Use LDC table of contents. The index we created called index. Same thing goes for the glossary, the How to Use LDC glossary. If there are any images in your document, in your project, will they be in the document itself, making the file size a little bit bigger? That's embedding in documents. Or would you prefer to have those images stored in a subfolder, subdirectory, and simply link to them? Keeps the file size down, but you have to remember to include those folders if you're going to be handing it off to Printhouse, for example. Let's choose Embed right in the document. Now we get to choose what we're actually going to print out. Is the table of contents going to be its own document? Index, glossary, the chapters, or is it going to be a single document? That's what I've selected here, generate a single document, and I'm thinking each topic should start on a new page as well, so they just don't run one into the next. If there are any hyperlinks in your project, they'll be retained by default. Of course, they won't work when you're viewing a printed document, so let's just deselect those. They'll work in the Word document, but we don't need them. We're going to be printing this out. There are some advanced features as well where you can limit the depth of the table of contents, how many levels down it's going to go. You can see it's limited to 3 levels here, which is fine for our project. Do we have images in the table of contents? Do we want to be able to see those or not? We'll deselect that. Styles in the TOC as well. Start new chapters on odd pages, which is a nice feature. Typically printed documents, when you start a new chapter, you're looking at an odd page. So this is set up for you automatically in the advanced options. Do you want to include a drop-down text? So if you have drop-down text in your project, that's a feature that may not appear in a printed document unless this is selected. Same thing goes for expanding text. So if you have dynamic features in your project that allow you to click or hover over text to expand it, should that be included in your printed document? Now, if you don't want it, just deselect the checkbox. Same thing goes for glossary text if you want it or not. Once you've made your selections, click OK. Now we're ready to move on to the next phase of our printed documentation, which is organizing our topics. We'll talk about that next.